Chido Johnson was born and raised in Zimbabwe and is now living in Detroit, teaching at the Center for Creative Studies. Here he shows how he applies both cultures in his artwork.
I was born in Zimbabwe. This was a time when Zimbabwe was not independent at the time. It was called Rhodesia. So I was born in Nyadiri, Mutoko, which was a mission that my parents worked at. They didn't fit in the mold of, I guess, stereotypical missionaries. They didn't follow the existing government laws, which was apartheid. They sent their kids to African schools too, which was a no-no. And my father started doing political cartoons for a revolutionary paper at the time, or a paper that was sympathetic to the revolution. And one of his cartoons became national, or international, should I say, where it became highly critical. And that led to his deportation. Another mission that my parents worked at. My mother was the doctor. We lived by the hospital, and my father started teaching art in high school. So as I mentioned, was my art teacher, and I guess I just followed the family business, become an artist. I never questioned being an artist. That was something I wanted to do ever since I was a kid. I am coming from a very hands-on rural childhood, as well as carving stone. The object is very important to me. I'm very excited. I'm very interested in the object, but I'm very interested in a search for something really real in the object, and not something that's just place meaning on it through borrowed histories and borrowed experiences. I feel like there's a desire for me to have a real exchanged experiences through its production, and that's what I'm searching for right now. If I have my perception, you have your perception, and we all have this perception to the world, I think I can learn more from that perception coming from you and how it impacts my perception. If that's what it's all about, it's just conversations between us. It was, I think I felt my role as an artist before Detroit, pre-Detroit. I felt like I had a purpose and role to express a voice that it could have been not as in my voice, but a shared voices that were not heard. I felt was not heard enough. And when I came to Detroit, it was like, wow, it was kind of pointless. I was like talking to a choir, and people in Detroit know what it means to struggle. They know what it means they know what blues music is. They know that's their daily life. So suddenly I realized that my work had to shift. And that's where it shifted, being in Detroit. Yeah, teaching art is very difficult. If there's any way I can help assist somebody to help clarify their perception and how it's connected to a wider conversation. Artists have to really believe themselves to survive. So it does, in a weird way, can turn into almost a religion, because one has to really believe in it too, because otherwise, if you're not getting funding, you're not getting the cultural support that you need to sustain oneself, how are you going to continue? I started out carving stone underneath the tree. I love carving stone. I love that process, and I love the object. But I realized what I loved very much was sitting next to somebody else. I grew up where we carved in the tree, the sunlight, we're outside, laughing, carving all day. And I missed was that hanging out conversation, that thing we talked about, that inspired us to make the work. Suddenly, we come studio-based artists, we hide in the studio, we make this stuff, and we take it out, throw it out, and behind, and show it. And it's like, and I realized that's not why I made art. I love to make art too, for this conversation, that it's about you and me. It's us. Let's talk about this, let's share this. And so any way I can do that still feels really real and personal to me. Not this external great idea, but all the projects come from very personal spaces, something that's very dear to me. So I'm even as I'm bringing people in, it's something that's very emotional to me that I have to open up to share with them. And I think hopefully they open up to share with me, and hopefully we have this really real conversation that occurs.
To find out more about Chido, as well as all the other artists highlighted today, head to DetroitPerforms.org.